Okay, so getting to the end of this part 3 of lecture, I think it's 5. Yeah, probably. Is it lecture 5? I think so. Okay. And so now we're talking about the right frontal polar cortex. And this has to do with retrieval mode. Okay, right frontal polar cortex. Okay. So broad retrieval mode, and that is not a memory search. And you can think about this because the frontal polar cortex, think of an Alaskan front. It's cold, it's big, and the polar cortex, it's big and vast and so broad, it's kind of like a memory search. And so the frontal polar cortex is similar to a broad memory search because it's like open, it's cold, it's not exactly like searching through episodic, pulling up specific memory, it's just kind of a broad memory search. Okay, and so changes in activation when these memory searches happen is more pronounced for episodic than semantic. So if you have an episodic memory, this right frontopolar cortex is going to probably be more activated. Probably because, I don't know, like, actually that makes no sense, honestly. Okay, so changes in activation, it's going to be more active if you are encoding an episodic memory, or retrieving an episodic memory, just so we know. Okay, so like we can just think about like probably the amount of like gigabytes that you know of semantic information is probably not as big as the amount of gigabytes that you know of episodic information. And so basically you can think of the episodic information lives in this like big polar front, and as you're doing this broad memory search, or broad retrieval, I shouldn't say memory search, it's a broad retrieval, it's going to be more activated for episodic because there's just so much episodic data, it has to go in this like big polar front, and so episodic lights up the frontal polar cortex is the thing to know. Okay, and so more for items that are less studied than well studied, and this is probably because it's like a broad retrieval, and so it's going to be more activated for things that you like don't know specifically. Like if you know something specifically, it's probably not going to be a broad memory search, it's going to be something specific that you can pull up based on an episode. Okay, and so transient activity correlating negatively with retrieval success. And so that is monitoring. And so once again, transient activity correlating negatively with retrieval success. Transient activity. Okay, so activity does not help you retrieve stuff, and that is monitoring. Okay, all right. So transient activity of this frontal parietal cortex correlates with negative retrieval success. So kind of like if it's transient, it's like moving a little bit, and then it correlates with negative retrieval success because it's moving and you like can't get the stuff as easy. You're not going to be able to retrieve stuff as likely. And this is also probably the basis for monitoring, because monitoring, like you're going through all this irrelevant stuff, and when there's transient activity, it's just kind of like moving, and so you can't recall quite. Okay, and so transient activity is negatively correlated with retrieval equals monitoring, and that is in the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And you can think of this as a dolphin swimming around in the prefrontal part of the brain. The prefrontal represents the pre-Pacific, and the Pacific Sea is like the prefrontal cortex, dorsolateral, and this is monitoring. And so you can think of a dolphin fin swimming around in like the little prefrontal cortex. So it's because it's like the dolphin fin, that's the dolphin fin, what is that? Dolphin fin. Yeah, the dolphin fin swimming around the prefrontal cortex is monitoring. Like the dolphin is like patrolling and like monitoring stuff. And the prefrontal cortex, because like the dolphin usually swims in the Pacific Sea, and the Pacific Sea is really the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex and the Pacific Sea are one and the same thing. And this is monitoring because dolphins love to lifeguard humans. Okay, and hall monitoring hurts people that want to retrieve stuff from their lockers. And so this monitoring hurts in the sense of retrieving. And again, we already know this because if you're monitoring something, you're going to be filtering out these irrelevant results. And so you're probably not going to get as many search results that you're going to pull up. Okay, and so the left frontal cortex is basically you can split the brain in half. And so the left side is going to be remember, recollection, and the right side is going to be familiarity. So this is probably counterintuitive to what you think. Like if you split it right and left, you would think that the right side would be stronger. But again, like that eye thing that we talked about, where there's a stronger contralateral dominance in the left side is, again, going to be like the stronger memory. Like those are going to be the recollections where you like remember exactly. And the right is just going to be like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that. Okay, yeah, I know that. Okay, and so a case study is BG, and he had a lesion in the DLPFC. DLPFC, you can think of it as DL is like the dolphin, PFC is prefrontal cortex or the Pacific Sea. And so BG had a lesion in the DLPFC, and that resulted in many false alarms during recall. And so he'd be like, oh, I remember that. Yeah, because there wasn't this dolphin that was like swatting down irrelevant information in the prefrontal cortex. Yeah. Okay. And so BG, you can remember this because BG means big gut, and big gut is like the sea, and dolphin is swimming in it, and it's trying to get out of this big ugly gut, but it can't because it's a false alarm. And the big man is a liar, and so he like has all these false positives. And BG had a DLPFC, which is dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, so dolphin, Pacific Sea, prefrontal cortex lesion, which led to false alarms. So BG, false alarms, BG, false alarms, because the dolphin's always swimming around inside his stomach trying to get out and keeps thinking he's out, but it's really a false alarm. Okay. And so how to isolate, usually look at how confident you are. And so if you're trying to isolate this area, you just usually have to look at like how confident you are in something, because this dolphin is always in your prefrontal cortex, is always going to try to be like knocking down irrelevant things that like aren't what you're looking for, like they aren't the correct retrieval. And so like how sure you are is going to help, and the changes in that is going to help distinguish this one brain region that kind of is like monitoring. It's like keeping the shit out. Like if you pull up something that's completely irrelevant, this dolphin in the prefrontal cortex is just going to slap it right out of your head. Okay, and so now we're going on to a new section, so wait a minute. Okay, And so now we know that the declarative memory also has other cortical regions that are involved in it, and these include things like the parietal/midline. Yeah, so most of the other regions that are involved in declarative memory, which is like concrete, real shit, are going to be the parietal/midline. And so the parietal cortex, the key is going to be the memory retrieval. Recognition, low confidence equals dorsal. Yeah, okay, so parietal cortex, declarative memory, like if you're confident about it, it's going to be in your ventral, whereas if you're not very confident, it's going to be in your dorsal, because again, like dorsal fin, the dolphin is swatting down these like memories that aren't relevant and like you're not confident about, and they're just trash. Like the dolphin's guarding you and monitoring you and like taking out the trash. Okay, and so low confidence to high confidence, dorsal to ventral, and again, it's like an alphabetical order. Like dorsal is low confidence, ventral is high confidence. Okay, and you can remember this is in the parietal cortex because parrots like to sing the alphabet, and this is very alphabetical. And so basically the thing to know is like declarative memory, it's in like a lot of places, but another place that it's in is the parietal/midline. Okay, parietal cortex, parrots like to sing the alphabet, D to V, low to high. Okay. And so another thing to know is Cabezas' attention to memory, and the explanation to this is Cabezas' attention to memory, and this explains the dual attention systems. And so high demand is going to be top down, search for weaker memories, and that's going to be a dorsal process. And so basically Cabezas' attention to memory is like how much attention does it take to kind of extract a certain memory that you're looking for. So if it's weak, you're going to have to use top down power to look for this memory, and you're going to be use top down to look for this memory, and it's going to take like a lot more information because it's weak. And like, again, this dolphin with his dorsal thing defending you from bullshit is going to come in again. And he's going to be swatting down relevant stuff. Okay, and so strong memories capture attention from bottom up because like you can't help that they're strong. Like you're going to remember vividly every detail. You're going to remember what park you were in, how the flowers smelled, what color the flowers were, what your mom was wearing on that picnic. This is just random memory making up. Okay, and so finally, the last concept of this is the dorsal PPC versus the ventral PPC. And the dorsal PPC, successful encoding, weak recollection. And so the dorsal PPC, which I think is a post-parietal cortex, probably? Yeah, parietal cortex. Okay, so the dorsal, again, this is the review. The dorsal is going to be mostly for like weak recollections, but it's also going to be for successful encoding because this dolphin will sometimes help these memories make it across the sea onto like the island of memoriness / the Arctic front that they live in / the hippo that they live in because he likes to watch Netflix. Okay, and ventral PPC encoding fail, and so yeah. Okay, so dorsal PPC or dorsal parietal cortex is going to be for successful encoding and weak recollection because sometimes, or like a lot of the times, the dolphin helps these memories get to where they need to be encoded, but also he's not going to really help them get recollected. Like he wants to keep them on the island and keep them safe. He doesn't want them in the water, like traveling around to recollection to go up that gyrus. Okay, and so ventral PPC here, it's not going to be very good at encoding, but you're going to be pretty good at recollecting things in this ventral area. And so ventral is for recollecting, and then you can just think about this because remember the DV thing in alphabetical order. Like V is for high, like strong memories, and so like where the strong memories live, it's obvious that like that's where you're going to be better to go if you want to recall them. Like if you want candy, go to the candy store. If you want a strong memory, go to the ventral PPC. Okay, if you want a strong memory, go to the ventral PPC, but you're not going to be able to encode much there because they are just selling stuff. They really don't want to buy it back. The dolphin wants to buy it back, but not the candy store. Okay, which is the ventral PPC. Okay, and so this is the encoding retrieval flip, and attention to memory model explains this also. And so then just like a little bit more contextual, just random information. For PPC, dorsal encoding, for PPC dorsal, encoding because the dolphin swims into your brain and the memory goes into your brain, but your skull so it can't get out. Okay, so again, like the dorsal PPC, the dolphin wants to swim the memories across into the memory island or the hippo or wherever they want to go, but it can't get out because the dolphin wants to keep it there, and also like there's your skull, like they can't get out of your skull, so that's the dorsal. And the ventral, you can remember this because like you open up the vent and it'll all flow out. Like you use vents for air conditioning, like they're great at things flowing out of them, but you really can't jam a lot of shit into a vent. Like that's not going to work very well. Like you can't, I don't know, you couldn't like make a house smell like flowers by shoving them in the vent. Like that just you can't put stuff in a vent. Like stuff only comes out of the vent. It doesn't go into your vent. It's kind of like your asshole. So ventral is kind of like your asshole. Stuff should come out. Stuff will come out, but nothing should go in there. Nothing does go in there. Nothing goes in there. It's fine. That's where it's stored. That's where all the episodic of your shitty life shit asshole A. So ventral is your asshole. And this is where you're going to have strong recollections, but encoding fails because shit should not go in there. But a lot of it can flow out. Yeah.